Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast, the number one source for news, analysis, and discussion on the Detroit Red Wings, the NHL, and all things hockey. Here are your hosts, Ryan Hanna, Brad Crisco, and Evan Lopsinger.
So John Gibson absolutely hates you, Evan. We know that now, right?
When I woke up after the Vancouver game, I had a bunch of people message me saying not message, but tag me in things being like, oh, what do you think of John Gibson now? It's like, my opinion has not changed. I don't understand. I'm very happy that John Gibson got a shutout.
Well,
a real Gibson shutout. Not a Gibson shutout, a real NHL goalie shutout.
By Evan Lopsinger standards, he posted 2 shutouts.
That's true.
A true shutout and then an Evan Lopsinger shutout, which is 3 goals against. Because at first, when they scored that penalty shot goal, I was like, that kind of sucks. Gibson was tracking well. I thought he had a good bid there for a second straight shutout, and that would have been a great, big middle finger to Evan Lopsinger. And then he allowed 3, which last episode you said that's a Gibson shutout. So
you got 2 in a row. Here we go.
With apologies to John Gibson. Another credit to you, Evan. Last episode, I said, the Red Wings have a tough schedule ahead. And you're like, no, they don't. They have Vancouver and Calgary.
Yeah, they're bad.
They're bad. They're bad. It's looking tough out west right now. But hey, 2 regulation wins for Detroit. Here we are.
This is like the inverse December.
I know, it's weird. I'm waiting for what we usually get in December, but
so far so good. This might be the best. If they lost the rest of the games for this month, this might be the best December they've had in podcast history.
I don't even want to do the math on that. Nobody checked those numbers. I'm not interested at all in knowing if that's true. Bright and early, we got our Coffee Cult coffee with us. Happy to record after the Calgary Flames game, before the Edmonton Oilers game. Folks, welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast, here to talk to you about all things Detroit Red Wings hockey, the world of the NHL, and lots more. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Hanna.
I'm Brad Crisco.
I'm Evan.
This episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast is brought to you by Greenlight Lending. And for a limited time, WWP and Greenlight Lending are partnering to give you a prize pack, including exclusive co-branded Red Wings and Winged Wheel Podcast merch that you can't buy anywhere. It's from our previous events. We're giving that away to one listener in Michigan. Text WINGS to 586-321-1888 to enter. No purchase or mortgage inquiry required. Must be 18 years or older. Void where prohibited. See full rules and alternate entry at gogreenlightlending.com/wings-giveaway to enter for this prize pack and check out Greenlight Lending. On this episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast, we're going to be talking to you about the 2 Red Wings games that have happened, takeaways from those games, John Gibson's performance, a line that is absolutely cooking right now, and lots more. We're going to be getting into, again, how the Red Wings line combinations are sitting right now, and the Cat, Kane, and Copp trio cooking kind of like last season almost. And then we are going to be jumping into the news that never stops feeding from out west. Thank goodness for insane Canadian markets. The Quinn Hughes saga rolls on, and there is increased Detroit Red Wings linkages there. Whatever else we get into before overtime, very quickly, patreon.com/wingedwheelpodcast if you want to support the show and allow us to do everything that we do. You get access to benefits like our bonus overtime episodes, which are a great time. You get bloopers, outtakes, thoughts with Evan. We let loose, we have fun. They're a good amount of fun there. You also get access to our Patreon exclusive Discord, and you're automatically entered into all of our giveaways. We give away 2 tickets to every Detroit Red Wings home game as well, directly to our Patreon supporters. So those are just some of the things you get when you join the Dub Dub Club. Again, patreon.com/wingedwheelpodcast. 4-0 against the Vancouver Canucks. John Gibson and net outshot 39-21, so he had a lot of work. It's not like it was a game where Detroit kind of parried everything away before it reached Gibson. Gibson had to see a lot of pucks, but he was tracking it that game, and can't have asked for better results directly after Evan had called him out.
I think he made a personal enemy of Jake DeBrusk that game. I don't know the final totals, but I'm going to estimate that 32 of those 39 saves were against DeBrusk.
It was so funny hearing the commentators. Like, if you listened at all to the Vancouver feed, they're like, oh, DeBrusk is just so snake bitten, something's got to go in. Oh, Sherwood's so snake bitten, something's got to go in. And they went down the list, and it's like 12 of their guys are so snake bitten, and something's got to go in. I'm like, oh, it's bad, huh?
Oh, that's always a recipe for success for Detroit when they roll into another team that's having issues scoring or guys are trying to get off slumps. That's when you typically see their Rocket Richard candidacy in full effect.
If you want to know whether your team is bad or snake bitten, play the Red Wings. Because if you're snake bitten, you'll score against the Red Wings. The Red Wings are slump busters, streak breakers. They are the remedy to what ails you. But if you're just bad, then you're bad and you'll lose. That's like Detroit is the ultimate litmus test team. Who was the quarterback back in the day? Who was like the median quarterback? Was it like Carson Palmer or something? They're like, he is just the most dead average quarterback of his era or something like that.
Trent Dilfer.
No.
What a name.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Hey, Super Bowl champion, Trent Dilfer.
I don't
Fair
mean to
enough.
get us on a tangent, but is there a grandfather playing in the NFL this week?
Could
Yes.
be Philippe Rios.
Well, I know that's not his name.
Well, Philip Rivers.
Yeah.
So we can do some math there.
Okay.
This
Yeah.
is yet another situation where Evan's Spanish is failing him.
That's true. Yes.
So Detroit wins 4-0. Opening goal by none other than depth goal scorer extraordinaire, James Van Riemsdyk, 7th goal of the season from Compher and Rasmussen. That guy is... I'm almost disappointed that he didn't score, like to the point of being surprised that he didn't score in the Calgary game after that, with how well JVR has been going.
I want to call out Compher on that goal because
yeah.
all season, one of our biggest gripes is how soft this team is on the forecheck. And we've never really given a good example of, okay, well, here's what it actually should look like. That's what it should look like. Just relentless on the puck, physical, using his body to make a play. And then even though he was in a bad spot, still getting it out to the front of the net by all means, which in this case was one hand on his stick. And then obviously deft touch by JVR to get it from skate to stick to tap it in. But that's what every forecheck should look like.
That kind of work down low it's not a coincidence. Like coaches aren't, just BSing when they say you do that work in the dirty areas down low. And I know Evan likes to talk about that like 3 foot by 3 foot box that the game is played in or whatever it is. When you're winning those battles, you win games just way more often than not. It's the easiest indicator. Is your team doing good work down there? Then you're going to be winning games. And like, I know it's not been the easiest season for Compher, but we have been seeing a lot more of that in this. Like if you split the season into 2 halves, the second half, you've seen a lot more of that from Compher, I think, than we did initially. So I'm happy to see it. And JVR, I mean, that was his 4th straight game with a goal and 6th goal in his last 7. So I don't know that we can do 3 episodes of a segment of just how good JVR has been in Detroit's death for an offensive capacity, but very close to doing it.
We'll just do our weekly, you cannot stop JVR, you can merely only hope to contain him.
Yeah. And then Andrew Kopp, yet another goal, his 3rd of the season from Sandin-Pellikka and DeBrincat. Just a beautiful, picture-perfect play. Like you just want to put that into slow-mo with some jazz music behind it. Like that is just a sultry hockey play. That is some offensive coach or a power play coach drew that up. It wasn't on the power play. Drew that play up and was like, in a perfect world, that's how that play goes. And it was Kopp from Sandin-Pellikka, DeBrincat, Kane factored in there. Gorgeous, gorgeous goal and a good sign. One of the very, very good signs that line is gelling together extremely well.
What was the one stat floating around on that goal that was insane to me? 4 Red Wings touched the puck in under 3 seconds or something like that.
Yeah. That kind of like tic-tac-toe, tick-toe, tack. Like it was beautiful. Like mere seconds later, it was not even 40 seconds later, Nate Danielson redirects an Axel Sandin-Pellikka shot. Nate Danielson getting the redirect, his 2nd goal of the season. Awesome. Axel Sandin-Pellikka getting 2 primary assists in under a minute. Awesome. The best story of that goal, Marco Kasper, baby. Secondary assist.
We're so back.
We are so back. I wasn't wrong when I called that Marco Kasper would get on the score sheet eventually a couple games ago. It was merely just early. But Marco Kasper gets his secondary assist, breaks that points drought from October, and the Red Wings were then up 3-0. Dylan Larkin scored the empty netter, his 16th of the season from Lucas Raymond, 4-0, and then it was John Gibson the rest of the way. Again, I don't know that they like were a dominant team the whole game by any means. I thought their offensive opportunities were taken advantage of, and that's what mattered most. Gibson absolutely had to do work, but it's not a game that you're mad at. A game on the road, your goalie shows up, gives you some margin to work with, and then you don't let the opportunities pass you by. You can talk about, how much you controlled the ice or things like that, but you look at that, you're like, your second line is clicking. You're getting offensive confidence more and more and more every game from Axel Sandin-Pellikka. You have, I thought, great games from Soderblom, Copp, Compher, Danielson gets on the score sheet. Like, Detroit's depth showed up. It actually felt like everyone who could possibly be rumored to be in the Quinn Hughes trade in any capacity was auditioning to either stay on the Red Wings or show off for Vancouver fans, one or the other.
Casper got an assist. Danielson got a goal. Rasmussen had a good game. Sandin-Pellikka had a couple points. It really did. It was slightly shocking. I don't know if the Canucks played last night. I don't know if the Red Wings actually tried smuggling him out in one of the gear bags after the game, but they might have left, Rasmussen behind as a tip.
They watched that version of Michael Rasmussen. I did a spot on Vancouver radio, and I was like, that's the best Michael Rasmussen we've seen. We'll take it. But the Surrey, BC native he liked his hometown game there.
He was auditioning a little bit.
Just tell Michael Rasmussen, tell all those guys we're playing in Vancouver every single game. I thought it was a pink slips game. I thought they were going to come home with Quinn Hughes. And that's what the focus was from everyone. They're like, oh, here you go, Quinn. And then Quinn Hughes, after the game in his post-game presser, talked about how good the Red Wings team was, and they built through the draft, which I think was a shot a little bit at his own organization there. And I got to say, it's nice to be on the other side of this. And everyone's like, oh my God, he's out there praising the Red Wings. He might as well walk onto the team plane. I'm like, you're right. He may as well walk onto the team plane. So John Gibson gets his shutout. Not just John Gibson's first shutout with the Red Wings. That is the first Red Wings shutout this season, period. Between Gibson or Talbot, both.
That is the least surprising stat.
It's, it is not surprising, but I did have to go back and check. Like, we knew that for a fact. I thought about it. I'm like, oh yeah, there hasn't been another shutout. But just to make absolute certain, because I'm like, that is a little bit silly to this point. I went and looked at every game. But yeah, that was Detroit's goaltending showed up. That was the best goaltending game we had since Talbot stole that one against Toronto. And it was huge. And as it is always with the Atlantic Division, stupidly, Detroit was temporarily back on top of the division after that game.
They were in 10th place in the Eastern Conference going into that game.
Someone responded when we posted that saying, weren't they like way out of the playoffs last week? I'm like, yeah, check again next week. They might be back in the same spot.
I mean, way out of the playoffs last week. They were literally way out of the playoffs that morning. 10th.
Dumb sport. Huge. A lot of those Gibson saves, like those were 10-bell saves. The one where he kicked his pad out, like he was tracking the puck really well. The big criticism with Gibson hasn't just been on results, it's been on process. It's like, it seems like he's a bit late to pucks. He's struggling with screens quite a bit. Any minor kind of inconvenience in front of him seems to beat him more easily than you'd expect. But that game, it's like something transformed, and he was moving around better. He was seeing the puck way better. He was anticipating, where it's going better. I don't profess to be an expert on goalie mechanics, but you watch the game enough, when a goalie's confident in his net. And there was games where, he would stop pucks, but it kind of looked like the puck hit him. This game, it looked like he was stopping the pucks.
And it was good that they went right back to him in Calgary as well. When he finally gets some confidence, ride it. And it turned into a 5-period shutout streak before the wheels fell off in the third period, but it worked out perfectly because you get an excellent game against Vancouver from him. Then you get, 15 minutes notwithstanding, a really good game from him against Calgary. And now that it's a back-to-back, you can go to Talbot and, okay, yeah, you had a tough third period, shake it off. It's Cam's night anyway. Sometimes things just work out the way you need them to.
I was talking to some Edmonton guys last night, and they asked me on the air, what's the biggest thing that Detroit can fix that would positively impact their season? I'm like, I feel bad because it's such a cheap answer, because you would love to talk about something nuanced like the scoring depth or, defensive depth, one more top 4 defenseman and how everyone can slot better and things like that. That's goaltending. It's goaltending. This team is, flirting with the top of a very tight division, but still the top of it. with some of the worst goaltending numbers in the league. And so if they get what they've had so far on this road trip from their goaltending, my God, they would be like Colorado levels, head and shoulders above the rest of the Atlantic. So Detroit heads into Calgary a couple nights later. That was last night's game. And again, looking good. Detroit wasn't necessarily like way better of a team that night. You can argue that they weren't the better team at all that night, but when they got their opportunities, they capitalized. They were up 2-0 really early in the game. And Patrick Kane, who has fully shaken off all the rest from his injury, looked completely on fire, sets up Alex DeBrincat with a filthy little backhand pass. Like just one of those passes where you show someone, hey, here's what makes Patrick Kane special. Like this kind of looks like a nothing play, but like watch everything that goes into this. It's like he can see the ice without having his eyes open.
99% of NHL players will never attempt that pass because they don't have the ability to. And if they do try it, it's almost certainly getting picked off and going the other way, and they're playing 5 more minutes that game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, coach is benching them right away. You don't want to compare everything to Pavel Datsyuk, but those are the kinds of plays that, like, you know, Datsyuk and Zetterberg would make together where you're like, the Sedins, where you're like, you're not doing, it's a dumb pass. You're right, Evan.
Yeah, it's just special players can do those sorts of things. The average man, the average man in the NHL, which doesn't exist. Like those guys are all elite hockey players. They can't do those things.
No. And so Alex DeBrincat gets his 15th of the season. I think that was, you know, a little bit of a new baby dad strength bump for him. So him and Kane connect once again.
When do I get that?
We're waiting for that from you.
Me too.
I don't know, man. You've had a couple episodes where you've just been back into classic Evan staring 1,000 yards away.
We're back in the trenches right now.
Oh, is he still struggling with his blowouts?
Well, we'll save that for the Patreon exclusive. There's been some developments in that area.
Okay. Gross. My condolences. What was also gross was the play with Kane, DeBrincat, and Sandin-Pellikka directly afterwards to make it 2-0. And more of the same from DeBrincat and Kane, who continue to just be some of the best, maybe one of the best duos in the league right now. And then Sandin-Pellikka, whose offensive confidence is just shining through. And I don't think anyone reasonable was writing off Sandin-Pellikka for like the first 30 games of his career being up and down. But you are starting to see why everyone was so excited about him of late, especially.
In the Vancouver game, it was funny. We still love the guy, but there was something a little satisfying about watching Sandin-Pellikka have that game against Filip Hronek, because essentially they were traded for each other.
Yeah.
And we still love Phil. It's not a shot at him, but it was kind of funny to see. And then in this game, on that goal specifically, it tripped me up a little bit, because what the hell was Axel Sandin-Pellikka doing there? In the offensive zone, but just the way the play shaked out, he read it perfectly, and he kind of was tracking a little bit towards back post, saw where the lane was going to open up, and you could see him smack his stick like the second that lane was not even open, about to open. Like the quarterback anticipation, like, oh, everybody's going this way, that lane's going to be there. The pass comes across. He's always had that shot. So just seeing more of that risk taking from him, that I'm going to activate. You know, he got an assist against Vancouver where he was on the hash marks on the wall, and then he gets a goal against Calgary where he's almost in the same spot. So it's good to see him just being confident to activate more, because he can do stuff like that when he does.
We got a comment at some point over the last 2 games, and I thought it was really good. And a point that should be brought up is, what's Vancouver going to add to Quinn Hughes to get Axel Sandin-Pellikka in the trade? No, and I say this knowing full well that I'm the kind of guy who's just been like, the Red Wings can't defend, and that's been their biggest problem for like 10 years now. So I've pretty much since Nick Lidstrom retired. And I'm saying, no, like, take those risks, because it isn't just like chaos, absolutely blindly putting yourself in bad positions, camping for a goal as a defenseman at the risk of your own team's, you know, overall win. This guy is an offensive force, and he can be an X factor on the ice when he's out there. Not Quinn Hughes right now, but still a guy who can bring offense in a whole new element that makes the other team have to defend. They're on their heels. They're having to anticipate a whole other facet of the play. And like Brad said, like he can think the offensive game really well. Like that is one of his things that comes instinctually, and that's invaluable. I make fun of the Erik Karlsson types, blah, 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 because they can't defend. And that's an ongoing bit, but it truly is in the modern NHL. Like if you have a guy who can do that, it is a special thing to bring onto the ice. And that's what's going to be Axel Sandin-Pellikka's bread and butter if he, really carves out a top end spot for himself in his career. So Detroit goes up 2-0. The rest of the first period is actually kind of bad for Detroit. They went without a shot for more than the last 10 minutes. I think it was the last dozen minutes or so. The coolest thing that happened was Gibson took a whack from Klapka after the puck was frozen, or he felt it was a little bit more than he should have gotten. He got up, went after Klapka, and then pretty aggressively, as the Red Wings did too. Lomberg came around and was trying to pull Gibson off, and then Gibson was throwing hands at Lomberg, and then Devin Cooley came to center ice, and I guess he forgot it was Christmas time because he didn't cross center ice. We didn't get the goalie fight, but that was fun to watch.
That was old school hockey. I love it.
That was
the best part of it all was the clip after it was all done and Gibson was back in the net, has his helmet off, getting a drink of water, and he's just laughing his ass off.
Yeah. He's having fun out there.
Yeah, you can tell. He's like, I don't get to do this that often. So now that I have an excuse, I'm getting right in it.
I want my goalies absolutely insane. I want them to be completely divorced from any kind of normalcy off the ice. And on the ice, I want them to have a kind of a horrifying smile on their face. I want them to be happy in moments which would scare people. Those are the best goalies.
We want
Howard.
psychopaths.
We want psychopaths. Yeah. Jimmy Howard. Hey, Detroit has a history of big scraps because of something a Calgary goalie did. And I think if Cooley knew the history there, he knew tradition, he would have crossed center ice and given everyone what they wanted. I know Calgary made a run of it later in the game, but they didn't have a lot going for them. Maybe that could have got them going, but we weren't so lucky. Second period, DeBrincat gets his second of the game and put himself on I think it's a 42-goal pace now for the season after not scoring the first 7 or 8 games. And that was thanks to Copp forcing the turnover, feeds DeBrincat. DeBrincat makes no mistake, puts the puck in, and Detroit goes up 3-0. We'll talk about those guys after, but again, every single opportunity the Red Wings got, it seemed like they capitalized on. And then Dylan Larkin scored his team-leading 17th of the season. So you think DeBrincat with 16 goals would be a top note. Dylan Larkin's still chugging along, goes on the break, makes no mistake, does it all himself, beats Cooley, and it's 4-0. And you're like, all right, that's the game for Detroit. They just have to close out the third period. First few minutes going okay. Detroit's on the power play. ASP, I saw competing opinions on whether it was his fault that they were in that spot or if he just had to take the bad penalty because of a turnover in a bad spot. But I think it was, as you were just saying, Brad, that was a necessary penalty for ASP to take, probably saved, at least in the moment, a goal. So he impedes on a breakaway opportunity. Farabee gets the penalty shot and makes no mistake and beats Gibson and ruins the shutout bid. And it kind of went downhill after that.
Here's me being critical and a little optimistic at the same time. It didn't go downhill after that because it didn't go well after the first 7 minutes of the game. Second goal to the third goal. I don't know if the Red Wings had more than one shot on net between those goals. And like you said, great play for the Sandin-Pellikka goal, and then Copp forces a turnover, and it's a quick strike goal. That was 20 minutes of gameplay where the Red Wings did almost nothing of value in between. And then, it was great for DeBrincat to score off a turnover and Larkin to score off a turnover. Those weren't really goals the Red Wings generated so much as they were Calgary mistakes. Now, good on Copp to jump on the turnover and good on Larkin to take off on a poorly played puck in the D zone. But they did not play well this game. They came out hair on fire. First 6-7 minutes were excellent. And then it was bad. And the team deserves credit for capitalizing on their opportunities because we know painfully all too well in previous years they wouldn't have done even that. But really, after the first 7 minutes, this team did not play well. And if this is any team but the Calgary Flames, I feel like this game goes a lot differently for Detroit.
I know what you're saying, and you're not wrong. Like, process-wise, you can't play like that consistently because your goalie won't always show up for the first 2 periods. The pucks won't always go in like that. Absolutely. You take it for the Red Wings, and you're right. You give them credit because they capitalized on the opportunities they got. Their shots went in. They finished. They, made Calgary pay for their mistakes. And I think the reality is good teams win like that as well. Not every game is a full 60-minute textbook performance where you're scoring goals like you did that I think second goal against Vancouver the game before. But yeah, I right down the middle, I think is the best way to interpret that. You're happy with the results. You're really pissed off about that third period where Detroit was up 4-0. Calgary scored the penalty shot goal, and they actually made it 4-3 with 5 minutes left to play, and it got close there. Detroit ended up hanging on, but it was way closer than it should have been. But all in all, you're on the road. You take them, you take the lessons you need to, but you're happy that you're a good enough team now compared to years previous where those games would have been, a write-off.
I certainly think there's things the team will want to take away and fix, obviously. But when you think about it, like you're on a West Coast road trip, you're in different time zones, you don't have a home game to sort of reset. Like it's just like all about momentum and trying to keep things on the rails. Like Red Wings capitalized on the opportunities they had, which is, maybe a month, October or November, we were wondering if the Red Wings would ever score a goal again. They made everybody look like a Vezina candidate. So yeah, it wasn't pretty. It probably wasn't all that great. They're probably not thrilled about, how it all sort of transpired. But, you're on the road. You got the win. And you're now heading into Edmonton. I think 2 points is 2 points. And you figure it out when you get home.
There is something to be said about the timing of it all. And to compare them to a football team and to compare good teams to one football team. Obviously, I'm a Bills fan, so I had to suffer through the New England Patriots dynasty twice a year, forever and ever and ever. But there were games, more than a few, that I can remember a pretty bad Bills team playing the dynasty Patriots, where the Bills were playing to the peak of their potential, having a great, great, great game, and New England looked off. So it turned into a very close game in a game that otherwise shouldn't be. But time and time again, there would be a point in the fourth quarter where the Bills would fail on a key third down. And then the next drive, the Patriots would get 2 or 3 big chunk plays and score a huge touchdown and win the game. That's what the Wings and Flames felt like last night. The Wings were obviously a better team, not playing to their potential. Calgary was playing fairly well, but they had those key mistakes that the better team capitalized on, and that was the difference in the game.
Feel like it's more on Calgary to seize that opportunity with the Red Wings not playing well than it is for Detroit to take advantage of a bad team.
Yeah, I understand Calgary's in the dumpster right now, but as someone who's been covering a team that's hopefully now pulling out of those days or has pulled out of them, I would highly recommend not turning the puck over in your own zone along the boards while the second line center is right there, and then one of the hottest shooters in the league is right in front of your own net.
Yeah, it was disgusting how quickly that went from turnover to the back of Calgary's net.
Yeah.
Even the Larkin goal made me laugh. A bad pinch by a Flames defenseman, and I don't even know how to describe it. Just poor thought process to try and reach for a puck or whatever he was doing with one of the fastest human beings alive skating into the puck. Just feels like a formula you don't want to write up in that moment.
Yeah. Having a fast break with the Red Wings coming down on you and seeing two of the fastest players in the league bearing down on your defenseman and goalie, you're like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, shouldn't have done that.
Poor timing, guys.
Yeah. I fully agree. Detroit has to, you put it exactly right, Evan. You take your lessons, you take the 2 points, as Copp said, you stack the wins. That's 3 straight wins. You're not upset about that. I think as a team that's developing a winning mentality, it's about, being happy about the result, but, grinding on the process and making sure that you capitalize on the momentum, but still adjust what you need to adjust and don't get comfortable. So It'll be a tough test tonight against Edmonton. I mean, by the time you're listening, you'll probably know the result, but we'll see how they can carry this. It'll be interesting because that's obviously a really strong offensive team that can make them pay. They're going to have a tired team, Talbot taking the net, barring something changing miraculously or catastrophically there. So hopefully a fresher goalie, but still, it's not going to be an easy task for Detroit. So I'm curious to see how they hold up. We should mention that Simon Edvinsson left last night's game after taking a puck to the inside of the foot/ankle area. So hopefully not out for tonight, or if he is out for tonight, not for too long, because those defensive pairings looked tough. It's as expected. The Red Wings defense is good up top, holding water behind that on the best of nights. And the moment you remove the second most important cog in their defense, it's going to look bad. So fingers crossed, it's nothing too serious for Edvinsson. Obviously, by the time you hear this, we'll know more. There's more to come. But first, we're going to take a quick break to hear from the sponsors of the Winged Wheel podcast. And then I want to discuss the Red Wings' second line and how great they've been. Back after this. You know that feeling when momentum shifts in the game? You've had a rough stretch, things haven't gone your way. You're really just trying to get confidence back more than anything. Well, hair loss can hit kind of just like that. You start noticing changes and suddenly you're not feeling like yourself anymore. That's where Hims comes in. Hims provides access to licensed medical providers who can help you find what works for your hair loss, all through a straightforward online process that fits your schedule. You'll get access to proven ingredients that can help stop further hair loss and even regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months if prescribed. There are no hidden fees, no surprise costs, just personalized care built around you. Think of Hims as that locker room veteran, that guy who's been there, done that, the go-to for getting your confidence back in the lineup. Expert guidance, trusted treatments, and a process that actually makes sense. For simple online access to personalized and affordable care for hair loss, ED, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/wingedwheel. That's hims.com/wingedwheel for your free online visit. hims.com/wingedwheel. Individual results may vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil and finasteride. Featured products include compounded drug products which the FDA does not approve or verify for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. See website for full details, restrictions, and important safety information. Welcome back. Last year, Andrew Copp was really meshing as the second line center between Kane and DeBrincat, and it was that scrum against Minnesota where DeBrincat lit up Brock Faber behind the net. There's a whole Donnybrook broke out, and it was just a random play where Copp kind of grabbed a guy, his arm twisted weird, and Brad just cringed and died because he watched someone's shoulder get separated or something get torn in there, and that was it for Copp for the rest of the season, which sucked because he was one of those guys that was really going well after McClellan came in last season. Since Copp came back, he's not been, I don't think, terrible or anything, but we haven't really seen that level from him until recently. And I think this Copp DeBrincat-Kane line has been meshing extremely well again.
Yeah, he works with that line. Not that he's on their level, but I think given the other options, especially the way Casper's playing this year, that even though at times Copp can lack some intensity, he's got the hockey IQ needed to be able to keep up with those guys. I don't think he can play at their pace. And obviously he doesn't have the skill those two have, but
I think Copp can play at Patrick Kane's pace.
In terms of, if you're just talking about skating speed, yeah, but in processing speed and making plays happen, not quite. But he can win battles and he can distribute the puck. And that's two things those guys need. And Compher, not as good at it as Copp. Obviously, Casper's had a struggle. Don't know if you want to throw Danielson in there yet. So he is the best option of the bunch right now. And if he keeps going the way he's going, he's probably going to be the best option for the foreseeable future.
I don't think Copp has always played like this, but the Copp that the Red Wings brought in and the Copp that, the Rangers enjoyed or the Jets enjoyed was the kind of guy where, paired with certain talented offensive players like Kane and DeBrincat, seems to be able to play up and, like you mentioned, Brad, just fit in with what they need to maximize them on the ice. And I don't even want to call it right now like just a least bad solution. I actually think he's going well. And just as much as, he's allowing them to be their better selves on the ice offensively and not just staying out of the way, but being a facilitator, they're bringing out the best in him. He seems like one of those guys that in the right scenario, not all of them, because we've seen it's not all of them, but in the right scenario, he can elevate his game and be a different player, especially when he has offensive assignments as opposed to just a heavily, heavily, heavily defensive role. And am I saying this is going to be hanging on all season and this performance is going to stay all season? I don't know that you can say that for sure, but I think Copp deserves more credit here than a lot of folks would give him naturally. And I really like what we've seen so far, and it's a good solution. Like we talked about the Red Wings these last 2 games, were they the best for 60 minutes? No, but they capitalized on their opportunities, and Andrew Copp's been a big part of that.
I think this line helps him a lot, obviously, because he's number 3 in terms of teams' attention. So teams are going to be focusing more on Alex DeBrincat, Patrick Kane. That kind of lets him, have a little bit more space. And those guys like to play with the puck on their stick, and they could slow the game down. And I think that just fits Copp's game at this point in his career well. Like we saw a brief shining moment in the bottom 6 where they were thriving with the puck in the offensive zone, just really, grinding teams out. But he doesn't have the foot speed to be that sort of chip and chase, muck 'em up type of guy. So this line is perfectly constructed right now, and I think everyone is benefiting from one another, but no more than Andrew Copp.
Yeah, and actually, there's a really good point too. Like everyone and what they need on the ice is getting what they need from the other 2 guys. Kane just having that gravity and slowing the game down and making everyone warp time and space around him and what he decides to do with the puck, whatever magic he has in store, just brings the pace to his level. Copp can go in and, force turnovers and be a facilitator as Kane and draws away coverage, and DeBrincat with his shot draws away coverage and gives Copp that time and space to make decisions. And then Alex DeBrincat's release and shot is one of the best in the league right now. It's a incredible solution for the Red Wings when it goes and when it fits. And DeBrincat, I mean, that goal off the turnover that Copp fed him, Red Wings fans saw that, and in that split second, they're like, that's a goal because of how DeBrincat's going, where he's positioned, and his release right now. The fact that he is on north of a 40-goal pace after being so snake-bitten to start the season, that guy has been the Alex DeBrincat that the Red Wings wanted to acquire and did acquire. That's what they needed him to be, and man, is he just doing everything he can to make Team USA's decision hard. Honestly, to be a little bit of a homer here and look through Red Wings colored lenses, I understand it's an extremely tight roster, but Patrick Kane is making Team USA's decision hard, where they're like, do we bring in some veteran leadership and a guy who can maybe just come in and be a force on the power play, or, an extra man to have in the room just to motivate these guys? Those 2, Cat and Kane, are just, Kane has turned back the clock, and DeBrincat's, I hope Ottawa fans aren't paying attention because they'd be seething if they saw these performances right now.
It wouldn't be my choice to have Patrick Kane on Team USA. I understand completely why there's the case for him. And in short tournaments, finding chemistry is one of the biggest priorities for these super teams. But Team USA has maybe one of the easiest choices, like Jason Robertson, Tage Thompson.
Oh,
those guys are having incredible years. I think it's really tough to take Patrick Kane, but I understand the reasons for.
If you're a team who has a star player who's not performing, just lie to them and tell them that this is an Olympic year. That's actually going to stop slumps, is the fact that we have a World Cup of Hockey and Olympics on 2-year offsetting intervals. So, because those 2 that you just named, Evan, they're going gangbusters right now. I so wish the Red Wings would have traded for Robertson when everyone was down on him.
They might still have a chance because his contract may exceed Dallas's salary cap significantly.
Dallas is in a lawsuit fight with, the Mavericks. There's complaints from the whole minor hockey organization that they control over there. It's messy in Dallas right now. Although, I mean, they're still cup contenders. So here's hoping that second line continues to stick and it allows things to work well down the lineup as well. Let's jump into the big news here, which is Quinn Hughes. And if you're like, why are you talking about Quinn Hughes again? Nothing has changed. Maybe not in terms of, decisions or actions, but things have reached a fever pitch, and I'm telling you, if it seems louder on the outside, that doesn't at all compare to how loud it is on the inside. Like, it is to the point where I'm like, I just don't see a world where he's not moved before the deadline or maybe even way earlier. I've been wrong and things change fast in the NHL, but I would be shocked if he's a Canuck by the end of the year.
You can just see it in the interviews out of Vancouver. Even the coach is having to talk about this, and he's just saying, yep, it's infected the room. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but
Vancouver? Locker room issues? There's no way.
But they got rid of JT Miller.
And because it's one of those things where, to me, it's always made the most sense for Vancouver to wait till the offseason because they can essentially then do a sign and trade. You know, if you're the Red Wings trading for Quinn Hughes, what's your offer for a year and a half of Quinn Hughes before he signs in New Jersey? Or what's your offer for 9 years of Quinn Hughes because you can do a sign and trade? Vastly different prices that I'd be willing to pay. But I think, like you said, the situation there just feels so imminent and so bleak in Vancouver that for like the rest of the organization, they mercifully have to end this sooner than later.
From a Red Wings perspective, based on, you know, conversations that I've had and what we're hearing, so to speak, the Red Wings are as aggressive as any other team in this. I'm going to qualify this, and I posted the same thing as well. I'm going to qualify this by saying I still think the Devils are the team, and if I was a betting man, that's where my money would go. I think every, you know, team that has any sort of serious shot, their fan base is going to amplify it and just get really excited. And I do think the Red Wings have a real chance. We'll get to that in a second, but I still think the Devils are the far and away favorite here. The Red Wings and Steve Yzerman have been as aggressive as any other team. Obviously, all of this is predicated upon, do they think Quinn Hughes will extend? Which is, of course, what any team will be trying to determine right now if they're going to trade for him, because the trade doesn't really make sense otherwise, because it's a foregone conclusion that he would extend if traded to New Jersey. Like, there's just no way that he would not extend with his brothers on the team, right? So it's not even like he's not extending anywhere, so the price is lower for everyone. No. There's the New Jersey high price, and everyone else has to match that. They just have to know that he would sign there. Detroit's been aggressive. I think they just want to know, is this worth it, and what is worth it? And I also think that part of this whole fever pitch is also been put on by the Canucks. My understanding is that the Canucks have wanted to push this timeline because they see how bad this is getting. I think Hughes and his camp have no motivation to accelerate things, and I've seen reports that they want to wait until the offseason, and I think the Canucks are like, no, we need to move this along. And so I know that report about, you know, New Jersey and Vancouver have talked went out, and this part is just my guess. This isn't based on anything, but I wonder if Vancouver didn't put that out to squeeze other teams like the Red Wings and plenty others who are interested to say, hey, you know, the big bad who's going to get Quinn Hughes is
the music's playing, who's coming to the dance floor.
Exactly. So
good on Vancouver for trying to get this resolved, because we've seen, like, it can turn very Buffalo-esque when you have player and organization talking about each other or talking about the situation through the media. It just really taints your culture and really taints the locker room. Not that Vancouver, they have their crisis experts are always on the field when things are going wrong. So good on them for trying to move this along. Like, it's difficult to move superstars and get what you think is a good return, but they can't just let this go on forever. I mean, they let the JT Miller thing go on forever last year, and you see how that played out. Like, this could very well be a consequence of letting that situation go on as long as it did. So, yeah, I think Vancouver is right to just get everybody together, be like, this is happening sooner than what teams are typically comfortable for when a superstar becomes available, but we need to move along and move this.
And if I could offer any advice, it's to just don't think too hard. Just do something fast and reckless. And
agreed.
That is Jim Rutherford's wheelhouse.
Jim Rutherford, who's dealt with Steve Yzerman in the past.
I don't think Jim Rutherford's any good at his job, but the one thing I've always at least respected about him is when he makes up his mind on something, he doesn't drag it out. He was always the guy making trades 2, 3, 4 months before the trade deadline. Oh, we need a center. I'm going to get one right now. I need to trade this player. I'm going to do it right now. He doesn't drag things out. Now, that being said, if he is rushing this, the fact that Quinn Hughes can't extend yet is a complication. So if I'm Jim, I'm letting other teams talk to him. Are you going to sign here?
I would be shocked if they didn't. Like, if there's a guarantee Quinn Hughes is going to re-sign in New Jersey or Detroit or whatever team trades for him, like,
That's 2 more premium assets.
the return coming back to Vancouver is exponentially larger. So it makes all the sense in the world to let that happen.
Like, if I'm Steve Yzerman and Jim lets me talk to Pat Brisson and negotiate, and Quinn Hughes says, yes, I am very interested. Here's the contract I'm looking at. And Steve Yzerman goes, we will absolutely sign that on July 1. My offer more than doubles, probably. Like, if I'm getting 1.5 years of Quinn Hughes, and I'm not saying the Red Wings shouldn't at least still have interest in that possibility, I'll give up a first-round pick for that, and I'll probably give up a pretty decent prospect for 1.5 years of Quinn Hughes. And because I think there's a lot of value for Detroit to just get to the playoffs for a couple of years, because that will help lure free agents after that. But if it's only 1.5 years of Quinn Hughes, I'm not trading Sandin-Pellikka for that. Don't even ask about Simon Edvinsson in that scenario. I'm hanging up the phone.
Yeah.
Like, but all of a sudden, if I'm getting 9 years of Quinn Hughes, 9.5 years of Quinn Hughes, okay, as much as I really don't want to include ASP in that trade, I will include ASP in that trade. But I am not doing a prospect of that caliber unless I know Quinn Hughes is solving a long-term problem that right now is being solved by Axel Sandin-Pellikka.
Yeah. And that's pretty much why it's the New Jersey Devils right now are still the favorite in my mind, because that's the only team who you know for sure. I mean, barring a piece of information that would shock everyone, but that you know for sure that he would extend with. So
It's like, I actually don't like playing with my brothers, so I'm not going to re-sign.
I
so
don't know how
annoying.
big of a thing it is, but I did hear someone reference, obviously they're his brothers and he loves his brothers, but they made the point that if Quinn Hughes goes to New Jersey, he might be kicking his brother off the power play. Which, how does that dynamic work?
I hear that and I'm like, it makes sense, but I'm wondering, is that just everyone who's not a New Jersey fan wanting that to be true, or is that actually true? That's what I struggle with, because I'm like,
I get it. I would love to play with my brother, but if I'm Luke Hughes and all of a sudden a guy is coming in, ignore the fact that it's Quinn. If a guy is coming in to take the role that I'm expected to play for this team for the next 8 years, I'd be pretty upset.
he already got paid though.
I know, but he's still going to have another contract after that. And if Quinn Hughes is running power play 1 and Luke Hughes is running power play 2, that's a pretty substantial point difference over the course of 7 years.
Detroit's really playing the long game. They're going to go for Luke Hughes, not Quinn Hughes.
I did see someone talking about, hey, Jack's contract's got not a lot of time on it left. Maybe if we get Quinn.
The brothers get into a fight over like a out of bounds ruling in one of their summer golf matches, and then one of them gets so mad that he leaves the New Jersey Devils. And Quinn's like, what did I come here for then?
That would be an all-time situation.
This is one of those ones where all the conspiracies are coming out of the woodworks from every team making connections. Like, there's Pepe Sylvia memes everywhere. But someone posted a picture of when, I forget how many of the Hugheses were in it, but it was multiple of the Hughes brothers playing for the Toronto Bulldogs. And it's like, the Leafs could use a defenseman. It's like, shut up. I know that's exactly how we sound, so you have the right to tell me to shut up, but also you right now, shut up.
And as Evan steps out here for dad duties, just to kind of bring it back on the Quinn Hughes point, is it feels weird to be able to confidently say that there's a chance. And that's not saying much, right? Like, this isn't groundbreaking information, but Detroit is a real contender in this. And, we talked last episode of the math is there in terms of the assets that Detroit could offer. The math is there in terms of where Quinn Hughes could potentially be interested, if not New Jersey. And it just makes a lot of sense. But it's the NHL. And after watching a team like the Red Wings for so long where they don't land guys like Quinn Hughes, I mean, they didn't land Quinn Hughes specifically. I was doing Calgary radio last night, and they made a specific point of mentioning, and Detroit obviously passed up on drafting Quinn Hughes. And I'm like, yeah, cool. Thanks for that. I hope your shovel hits a crack in your driveway when you're pushing the snow off tonight. But so you almost don't believe that this could be the Red Wings, even though it all makes sense. And so to know that they are a very real contender in this, like, doesn't count. Close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. I get that, but it's a good sign. So fingers crossed. I still am not putting anyone above 50% other than the Devils. Personally, I know some bookies have the Red Wings leading. I don't think that's necessarily real, but yeah, if you want to give Detroit a 1-in-4 shot, I wouldn't call you crazy.
I'll take it. Like I said, I think it's just that contract is the whole sticking point right now, because I firmly believe this is how I'll phrase this in terms of odds and phrasing. I think the Devils are the favorite because I think everybody knows Quinn Hughes will extend in New Jersey. I think if Yzerman ever gets permission to talk to Hughes' agent and they say, yes, we will extend in Detroit, that is on our short list of teams that we would extend in, it jumps Detroit to the top of the list because I think they could outbid New Jersey. Yep. But it's just where does he want to sign? And right now, he has a lot of good reason to want to sign in Detroit. And I think if his brothers didn't play for the Devils, Detroit would be an obvious landing spot because of all the family from Michigan, played for Michigan, likes Michigan, spends his off seasons in Michigan. But there is the complication of his brothers are in New Jersey.
And also from a cap perspective too, the cap's going up, so this is less of an issue, but there's certain teams right now are money in, money out. So even to make it work right now, they'd have to facilitate. I'm not saying New Jersey's not going to make it work, or Vancouver wouldn't wait a little bit to have New Jersey make it work. In the modern NHL, all these teams now have cap space, and so you can find a taker for whatever bad contract. And if it means giving up a second round pick more than you're planning to, in the end of all the cascaded trades you get Quinn Hughes, you make it work. But still, Detroit has the space now and they have the space later. And you look at their cap structure, you're like, oh, you want to have guys come in under the Larkin number or the Sider number on defense. Who do you break that for? One, math, because the cap has gone up, but still psychologically, in terms of the overall team picture, breaking that for Quinn Hughes is something that your entire team would be on board with, because they're like, wow, we have Quinn Hughes, we might win the Stanley Cup now.
Well, for this year and next, he makes less than Larkin and Raymond and Sider, so that's not an immediate problem. And the Red Wings wouldn't need to do any cap gymnastics to get him on the team tomorrow. They also wouldn't have to do any cap gymnastics in a year and a half when his new $14 million contract kicks in.
Oh, he took a discount?
Yeah, honestly. They have no complications. And now there have been multiple reports that New Jersey is one of the more active teams out there with how many teams they're talking to and about what. In all likelihood, that's trying to free up cap room to make this work. But that's not always a guarantee. And Detroit can call Vancouver and go, we can take him in the next 10 minutes. We don't have to do anything. Let's get it done with. And that could be enticing to Vancouver. Because again, they have reason now to not drag this out.
Come on, Vancouver. Just get it over with. You want to get the noise out of Vancouver. Everything will be calm and settled and good after this, I promise you.
You don't even need to share Pat Brisson's contact info with Yzerman. I'm sure he already has it. You just got to give the thumbs up.
Yeah, it's not, breach of contract. It's not breach of the CBA if you only speak in emojis. That's what everyone says. Okay, back to some Red Wings notes. Carter Bear having a phenomenal season out west, was named to Team Canada's World Junior training camp roster. So he has a shot at Team Canada for the World Juniors, it's fun to see. Like Max Plant and all these guys are doing so well. Carter Bear, don't forget about him. Like he was the Red Wings pick for a reason. And you're already hearing about teams who are like, we missed a trick on Bear.
Well, he had a pretty slow start to the season, and a lot of people were wondering, is that just who he is, or was that a result of the injury? But he has really come on strong lately. And a lot of the projections I saw from prospect guys who were predicting who Canada was going to bring to their camp, Carter Bear wasn't on most of them.
Mm-hmm.
So not that it's a total surprise, a 13th overall pick ends up going to Team Canada camp, but it was a little bit of a surprise that Carter Bear ended up on that camp. So good for him for having a late surge to make his way on there. I still don't think he's likely to make Team Canada, but he's already made it farther than a lot of people thought he was going to, which is a good sign.
I would say Team Canada I think they have a propensity to take guys who show well at camp. So the fact that he's in the door, it's like everyone's playing from a level playing field right now. There's going to be guys who are obvious locks for the team, but if he continues at the pace he's at and how he's going, they're going to want to bring him, especially the kind of game he plays, that kind of hard-nosed, like in your face, you win puck battles, you have offensive talent. Like that's not just the NHL level. They need that at the World Juniors too.
Well, Canada always has this awful habit of building ghost rosters and then plugging guys into who just fits a certain role rather than who's the best player. And we saw the last couple of years how much, especially last year, how much that absolutely sewered Team Canada.
Yeah, who could have predicted?
They left off Beckett Seneca, who's the leading rookie scorer right now in the National Hockey League. Like, they make that type of dumb decision consistently. This year, with who they invited, it seems they've figured out a bit more. But Canada's going to want to build a fourth line who's going to be aggressive, can check. It's Team Canada. You can still take skill players to build a fourth line that can score, but who's a guy that can play in that type of role but still provide a bit of offense? Carter Bear. So he does have a legit chance because I could see them going, on our ghost roster, we need a fourth line that can grind the other team. Carter Bear can absolutely be that guy and still chip in a couple goals over the course of the tournament.
And for what it's worth, Brad says a bit of offense. That's relative to a best-on-best tournament.
Yes.
He brings a very good amount of offense in, normal play.
Yes.
And then Max Plant for Team USA and Eddie Genborg for Sweden obviously should be noted as well, but Bear was the surprise
Those guys
one.
are locks. They're making the team.
Yeah. So, okay. More to come in the final segment on this episode of the Wing Wheel podcast. First, another quick break. Back after this.
We're going to overtime.
Overtime is brought to you by our Patreon supporters. Patreon.com/wingedwheelpodcast if you want to support the show. Again, access to benefits like the bonus overtime episodes, the Discord, the giveaway, all that, and lots more. So if you want to help us out and allow us to do everything that we do, patreon.com/wingedwheelpodcast. Let's take some questions from our patrons. Finney's Hot and I'm Ready says, is there anybody in the prospect pipeline who can really add some meanness, who opponents might actually be scared to play, kind of thing? Anton Johansson seems to play a big game, but not necessarily a mean one.
Yes, but are they good enough to play in the NHL?
Enter second round pick Brady Cleveland.
He can do everything you want in regards to this question. His only issue is the game of hockey in general.
The Moneyball meme. For what it's worth, I know Max liked what he saw from his game when he watched him play the other night, so you surely have to see some more there from Brady Cleveland, and he's not like a surefire, all this guy's getting in ELC and playing kind of thing, but outside shot.
If you're looking for someone who can be not necessarily in the fighting, like intimidation standpoint, but a bit of an, for lack of a better word, bit of an asshole on the ice, Eddie Genborg.
Yeah.
He's, for all the complaints we have of the Red Wings forecheck and net front presence this year, Eddie goes a long way to solving both those issues.
Yeah, he seems like such a pissant to play against.
He really, truly is. Like, there's so many clips I see of him. It's like Eddie Genborg highlight, and you're expecting to see a sweet assist or a nice goal, and it's just him trucking somebody on the forecheck, and it's like, oh,
yeah,
not what I was expecting, but I was still happy I watched it.
All right, moving along here. Two people asked Casper questions, so I'll read them both out. The Real K Brown says, I remembered that Casper had a slow start to last season and looked back at his stats. He had 7 points through December, and he currently has 4 with 10 more games in 2025. So, slow start, but not exactly the same numbers. obviously the circumstances are completely different, but does that fact change your perception on his season at all? If you were to turn it around and end up with 40 points again, would you staple him back at 2C? And then later on, Joseph Barry says, Brad, you had previously questioned what Kasper's offensive ceiling could potentially be. Now, what do you think it is, even while going through a sophomore slump? So all in all, how has this start to the season for Kasper changed perspective at all, if any?
This season, I don't think has changed a lot. I think the second half of last season kind of changed what we thought the ceiling could be.
Mm-hmm.
The sophomore slump's always a risk. I think it's hit hard enough that maybe we have to. The ceiling's not as high as we thought it was last season, but it's not as low as we thought pre-draft. I think the two extremes have kind of narrowed the window. Like, okay, we know he's not going to be any worse than X, but he's not going to be any higher than Y. And I just think those letters have gotten closer together. So I don't think he's ever going to be a 70-point guy, but I don't think he's going to bottom out as like a 30-point guy. It's going to be somewhere in the middle. Because it's been rough. There's been too many games where it's not just that he's not producing, it's that he's completely not noticeable, which for the style of game he plays is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. I don't think it's changed a ton for me. Just the floor is a little higher because of the second half of last season, and the ceiling's a little lower because the starts to the last two seasons.
It might be too simplistic of an outlook, but I'm kind of the guy where I look at results and I'm like, unless you're like the Jonathan Cheechoo that 1 year for the San Jose Sharks, and I don't know how much that reference dates us at this point. I hope not at all, but every day we feel older and older.
That was 20 years ago, right?
It would have been free to not say that to me. $3.
I know, but it makes me happy.
God, I used to have
seeing
hair.
the realization on your face on that one.
I used to have hair. Whenever we do meetups and stuff and people show me pictures from like the first time we met at the LCA and I see how much hair I had, I'm like, delete that right now. I'll make a new memory with you right now. It'll be me throwing your phone across the room. But yeah, like if you've done it, I kind of think you can do it again, barring the most extreme of circumstances. So I don't actually think I'm putting a lower ceiling on Marco Kasper's eventual peak. I could see a season where he goes absolutely nutty and gets way more points than people think he could. But yeah, I also don't disagree with what you're saying, Brad. For the kind of game he plays, that should be more sustainable. I attribute it to sophomore slump. I attribute it to riding the brakes. I attribute it to confidence. But, you're going to have to start to see at least the process. You might not see the results this year, but you're going to have to see the process continue to come back so that for next year, at the very least, he will, start to produce how he's supposed to, because the game he plays, not noticeable should not be the case.
You know what? Scrub all that. Jim Rutherford might be listening.
Right.
Absolutely. This is a mirror of last year. He's about to rip off the heater to end all heaters. So need to get him in the lineup and play as much as possible because he's about to hit 40 points in the next 50 games.
How old is Jim Rutherford? Like 77? No shot he's listening this deep into the podcast. He
accidentally fast forwarded trying to
skip past
some other stupid stuff we were saying, and then he just landed right here.
Oh, but sorry.
Just glowing praise of Marco Kasper and his eventual heater.
That's right. Yeah, which is going to happen. And I wouldn't be surprised, too. Like, for the same reason you're like, oh, I have some concern. It could also be the same reason that when he breaks out of it, he's going to get right back to his old ways.
Well, as soon as he gets right next to Elias Pettersson, Patrick Kane, like it's over for everybody.
Of course. 155 Tater says, with the Eastern Conference being so tight, is it insane to say that there's an actual possibility that the Wings could make a run to the conference finals without actually being that good of a team?
No, but I'm really only saying that because of one team.
Florida.
Not even Florida. I don't know if Florida makes the playoffs.
That's
right
what
now.
I'm saying. They're out of the picture.
There's no 7-game series as it stands right now. I see Detroit beating Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the only one I can confidently say that about. I wouldn't be surprised if Detroit took out Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Boston in a 7-game series right now. If they get in,
Goalies get hot at the right time.
It's possible. It's just in the second round, they would run into Tampa Bay. Because even if they get a wild card spot and they go through the Metro loop,
I can't stand the bracket system, man.
I know. I hate it. I hate it so much. So, like, the only path where I see, I'm not calling it likely either way, but where there's a reasonable chance of Detroit getting into the conference final is they get into a wild card. Somebody in the Metro gets hot at the last minute and finishes first. That's not Carolina. And then Detroit pulls the upset and then yada, yada, yada. But even that's so far-fetched, I'm not going to call it even remotely likely. But that's probably the most likely scenario because, again, I think if Detroit gets in as a wild card in the Atlantic, okay, they're just going to get waxed by Tampa in the first round. If they get in as a 2-3 seed and play Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, Boston, I don't think Detroit would be the favorite in that series, but I could absolutely see them winning it. And then they run into Tampa.
Expensive Pedersen's Revenge Tour says, I may be way off base here, but watching that mini collapse in Calgary and Edvinsson being out for the rest of the game, wouldn't you rather hypothetically have a Slavin-type player instead of a Hughes? I know ASP is no Hughes, but he will be able to provide a decent amount of offense, and I think Slavin types would be filling a much bigger role. Yeah, but where do you get that?
No, I think he's saying you don't trade Edvinsson for Hughes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I think I'm at the point that Edvinsson's on my untouchable list in a trade. Like, if it's a 1-for-1 type of deal, okay, that's probably too good a value to pass up, but Vancouver's not going to do that. Yeah, I think, and I know I've talked to you about this off air and I won't get into the details, and I know this probably is just getting too picky. If I'm making the trade, I don't think I'm including a defense in the trade for Hughes. I don't think Vancouver would want ASP because they've already passed on him once when they could have got him in the draft, and they have Willander and Hronek on the right side, who both play the role ASP would play for them. So if you're Vancouver, who are you going to ask for? You're going to ask for Edvinsson. And if I'm Detroit, I really, really don't want to do that because even from a roster building standpoint, you can't put Hughes and ASP together. And if you put Hughes with Seider, but you don't have Edvinsson, man, I don't love that second pair long term. Like, okay. Who's going to be, because Sherratt's only got a couple years left to be the guy with ASP at best.
I can get everywhere where you're going, Brad, but it's that thing where
you don't have the luxury of saying no.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're like, hey, you had an opportunity to. You're going to pass on Quinn Hughes twice? You can't do it.
I get it. I very much get. You can't say no, and if including Edvinsson is the only way to get this done, you probably have to do this. But I will tell you, if I'm including Edvinsson, I am not putting much more else in there.
No, I agree.
Like, if you're going that big, where it's like if you make a trade centered around Kasper or Danielson, I will very comfortably throw in a ton of picks and prospects. I am not doing that with Edvinsson.
Cameron Schneider says, new patron, you guys have strongly deepened my love for hockey, so thanks for doing what you do. Thank you, Cameron, so much for supporting the show and joining the Dub Dub Club. And for the kind words, he says, who are each of your current NHL players that you just can't stand? For whatever reason, bonus points if it's not Red Wings trauma related.
Brady Tkachuk.
It's got to be Brady,
It's
right?
Brady Tkachuk. I don't have a second place close to him on my list right now.
Like, it's the...
Actually, sorry, I do have a second place close to him on my list. Tim Stützle.
Oh, the diving gets me, man.
The diving, the tinted visor, the stupid tape job. Like, I'm sure he's probably a great guy. I have not seen as much off-ice content of Tim Stützle as I have Brady Tkachuk. On the ice, I can't stand the guy.
Here's the thing. Like, there's always this back and forth between fandoms and fan bases online, and everyone's like, oh, Larkin dives too. I think Larkin embellishes, absolutely. Like there's...
I wish you wouldn't.
Like, there's a lot of... He looks for the call. Larkin takes a hell of a beating, and I can see why he's gotten to that point. But yeah, he embellishes. There's no one in the league among players who are kind of like Larkin where they look for the call kind of thing. Tim Stützle just drops so easily, and it's infuriating to watch. It is like soccer level bad. And some coach at some point failed him by not just benching him every time he did it. And I get it. He's a star to superstar level talent, like right there with Lucas Raymond. And, you know, he would have excelled at every level he's been at. And so for a guy like him, it was advantageous to do it. But in the NHL, I think there's no place in the game for this. And it's to the point where he's getting actually like hacked and whacked. And Sens fans are like, really? That's not a call? This is all reputation. Yeah, it's reputation. And I know you're like, we're the same people who are like, call the rule book. I'm glad the refs don't call it all on Tim Stützle because it's a disgrace to the game the way he drops. He's too good to be doing that. You're so talented, dude. He could be a 100-point player. He spends half the game on his ass like he's Tyler Bertuzzi. It drives me insane to watch.
And also, some people can pull off a tinted visor and it makes you look like an absolute badass. He looks like the biggest nerd wearing that thing.
It's stolen valor.
He is not one of the guys that can pull it off.
You're not Ovi, man. And look, if he stayed on his feet and just was an absolute dog out there and just lit guys up in terms of his talent and his skill, and he's putting up 80, 90, 100 points right off the rip, sure.
No, it's not even a reputation thing. He looks like a nerd. This is a purely aesthetics thing with him. It doesn't work. And his helmet looks too big for his head. Like it's a tough look for us. And then this stupid tape job to go with it. Just
what tape job does he have? I've never paid attention.
He switched it, tweaked with it a bit, but basically he tapes the toe white and then does the white strip along the heel.
Oh.
I think he's made the strip bigger, but he still like cuts out the bottom. It's stupid.
So nothing on the rest of the blade?
No, it's literally a horizontal white strip halfway up the blade, and then he tapes the second half of the blade normally.
Okay.
Stupid.
Weird. So, yeah. I like
Mo Sider used to do it, but he did a black tape strip instead of white, and so it looked less bad, but it was still stupid. Mo now does just full blade white, and it looks so much better, but which I appreciate because my kids copy what he does.
Oh, you had little dweebs for a while.
I had little dweebs for a while with just the toe being white.
And they made you tape their stick, didn't they?
Yes.
And so you had to do that?
It killed me every time.
That's extremely
So
funny.
when we were at the game earlier this year and I pointed out to them, look, Mo changed his tape job, they have seen the light.
Look at that. That goes to show, like, parents have a lot of influence, but at the end of the day, if your kids want to be dweebs, if you're a loving parent, you kind of just have to let them be dweebs.
You just got to let them be dweeb.
And pray you can very quietly bully them out of it. But, like, honestly, as if I was a Sens fan, I would be obviously infuriated that you're not going to get the call on the ice, but I would be like, he has to stop. And I actually do think it used to be worse, too. I do think he's gotten a titch better, but he's still got a long way. His reputation has caught up to him. It's that simple. You can boil it down, but at the end of the day, no one in the league likes it.
Sometimes good leadership on a team can coax that out of a guy, but unfortunately his captain's Brady Tkachuk, so.
The human thumb. We love to hate Brady Tkachuk.
Hey, I'm just happy Sloth from the Goonies ended up doing something.
Making a good amount of money.
Yeah.
Sloth. All right, let's jump to another question here. Jack's dad says, is it me or does Danielson look like he's a quarter step behind the pace of play? He's often around the puck, but he's not making plays on it, or he's just a smidge late in the decision-making. When he skates, he doesn't seem to move with happy feet like Kat or Raymond. I think that's Danielson riding the brakes.
Yeah, that's a rookie riding the brake, afraid to make a mistake. He'll get out of it eventually, but it's a lot easier said than done.
Because that's decidedly not his game.
Because he does not want to go back to Grand Rapids. He wants to stay in Detroit, so he but in his mind, he's turnovers are going to get me sent back to Grand Rapids.
Yeah. So I have no questions about, like, yeah, he's going to come back and be like the Danielson that they had drafted. He just came off injury and then, had a good little stint in Grand Rapids, but not terribly long, and then was in the NHL. So he'll be the guy that the Red Wings wanted him to be. I really like what I see from Danielson, but this is a process, not results phase right now.
Every once in a while you see flashes of it where he gets comfortable and will do some things. Like, he's not attempting that pass Kane made.
Nope.
That pass gets Danielson sent to Grand Rapids. That pass gets Patrick Kane in the Hall of Fame.
That's right. Like, what prospects are going to be doing that when they get up? Like Brady Cleveland? That's it. That's the only guy I can think of. Brendan Uramis says, what's the answer for the Wings getting physically dominated almost every game? Ignore it and play your game. Sucks seeing them get thrown around every scrum, and I feel like it gets the other team going after the energy guys beat up another Wings player.
Brady Cleveland, actually.
Pretty much.
That is the answer.
Like, we talked about it, and I think after the first Boston game, the Red Wings responded how they needed to, which is it's got to be all hands on deck when that happens, because you don't have guys you don't have Isidorov, you don't have someone to, like, pull a guy out of the pile and just dummy him. But Yeah, there's going to be a limit to him, and you got to just beat them on the scoreboard. You can't let them beat you with the punk test, but at the end of the day, you can't make the punk test your only objective for that game.
Maybe John Gibson will be the enforcer this team needs.
I mean, he went after 2 Flames in one go.
And he went after the Flames 2 enforcers.
That's right. Lomberg is a sneaky pick for maybe, if Calgary was better, more people would hate Lomberg.
People hated him plenty when he was on Florida.
That's what I mean. I really like, and that's the kind of guy where it's like you would like to have him on your team.
He would be great fourth liner in Detroit, and he has one of the best nicknames in the NHL, so all the more reason to be interested if he becomes available.
All right. With that, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast. Thank you all so very much for tuning in. If you want to come see us in person, Winged Wheel Podcast Night at the Grand Rapids Griffins is coming up fast here. It's just over a month away. So griffinshockey.com/WWP pregame live recording with members of the Grand Rapids Griffins, other special guests. And it comes with not only access to the game and the special event, but you also get a signed Grand Rapids Griffins puck by a random Griffins player. It's a mystery signed puck. So griffinshockey.com/WWP to see us in Grand Rapids. Thank you all so very much for tuning in. To our Patreon supporters, could not do the show without you. Patreon.com/wingedwheelpodcast if you want to support the show. And if you want to help us out, but Patreon's not really your thing, that's totally cool. You know, everyone has different ways that they want to support. If you just subscribe wherever you're getting this podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, hit subscribe, like the show, leave a rating, a review, the stars, the heart, thumbs up, tell a friend about the show, you know, just writing in the review. All that really helps us out quite a bit. To our sponsors, we can't thank you enough. And to our name level supporters from Patreon, this whole show is thanks to you. Arjun Shankar, Yves Bartels on behalf of the Sir Grand Foundation, Aikfer, Martin Norberg, THL champ Samuel Soderholm, Icon, Glenn Brabham, Rain Dano, below average ball hockey goalie, Matthew M. Rice, Darb EQ, Sea Lion, Bingo Bango, Hassam Al-Qassem, Asher Killian, Kalen Wood, Alex Toger, That's What I Appreciate's About You, Derek Enstam, Matt McKay, Andy Hardcore, Sam Bankson, Citizen High Five, R.A., Aaron Hudson, Admiral Matt S. of the Cheesebag Navy, The El Cato, Stephen Ortlieb, Jonathan Miller, Give Blood, Fight Probert, DJ Denton, Caro, Britannia Nanaluski, Jay Gollum, John Ingalls, CB55, Connor Scovey, Adam Zuiza, Adam Rose, I Miss Pew Suter, Steve R., Hockeytown Matt, Mr. Kuzi, Chaotic Monkey, Craig Kibble, Iserplan Stan, Podgy713, Clip Clop Nene, Unapologetic Gibson Truther, Griffin Not From Grand Rapids, Marty, Causey the OG13, Jeff Pridemore, Eric Hill, Butts Carlton, Best James Bond, Beer League Legend, Alec, Mark Hernandez, Slim Smitty Cards, Grand Rapids Girly, Anna Sleeman, William, Mike Asher, Chris Black, August, Brian Munn, Improved But Flawed, Chris 99 Jones, Putting on the Moritz, Trevor Centerfit, Adam, General Andy Bohan of the Cheesebag Army, Quaz, Dylan Larkin Trade Sacrifice, rated 4 out of 100 on my player card, Matt Keeler, Linda Hull, Connor Leighton, As Good As It Jingles, Jeremiah Dobo, Josh Yelton, Brad Simmons, Darren Fick, Bex, The Hodag, Daddy Pastor Jake the Sermonator, Commander Ben Barron of the Cheesebag Space Force, Sandin-Pellikka's Pet Pelican, Griffey Boy, JM Rhapsody, Frank Stanley, Rosie Posey, That Other Guy, Pucking Puck, Carl Thames, Nerno, The Hat, 123, Stephen A. Aaron, Corey Prida, All Motor No Hands, Gene Sullivan, Dirty D and the Boys, Big Cheese, James Pridemore, Upernadia, Drop the Puck, Eric Nance, Ann Stanislavski, Jim, Bellingham Acid Balls, Wings fan in St. Louis, Scott, Johnny Page, Lucas Raymond, Cops, Gump Lip, Trent Thorough, Grepsky, Evan Beckner, Return of Jambo, C.E. Hayes, Finney to the Rafters, Jacob Marsh, Falkness, Fight Night at the Joe, Axel Sandin-Pellikka, The Octopi's Ninth Leg, Finney the Pooh, and your second favorite patron. Thank you all so very much. We will talk to you Sunday.
Thanks for tuning in to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Be sure to visit wingedwheelpodcast.com, where you'll find links to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll also find ways to support the show, like Patreon, official podcast merchandise, and more. And don't forget to follow us on X at Winged Wheel Pod, at Ryan Hanna, WWP, at Brad Crisco, and at Hockeytown Evan, as well as Winged Wheel Podcast on Instagram.
This message is brought to you by Greenlight Lending. Are you facing financial red lights on your home ownership journey? Don't have money for a down payment or closing costs? Struggling with your current mortgage payment or other debt obligations? Or maybe you have a complicated situation like credit challenges or self-employment income? At Greenlight Lending, they turn those red lights green with creative mortgage solutions for purchase and refinance loans. Their team crafts personalized plans with flexible closing cost options, competitive brokered rates, and innovative loan programs tailored to your needs. Whether it's finding the right loan or guiding you through the process, they're here to help you score your home ownership goals. Let's get you out of the penalty box and into the game. Head to gogreenlightlending.com to explore solutions or call Nick directly at 586-321-1888 for your customized plan. All loans are subject to credit approval, terms, and conditions. Rates and programs vary. Contact for details. Greenlight Lending, lighting the way to your financial future. NMLS 2676683, an equal housing opportunity lender, proud sponsor of the Winged Wheel podcast.